stability. I would like to begin by uh, stating what is it that I have in mind. I saw the program that you all have been going through for last 2 days, and you have been the program itself is on emotional intelligence. So I'm sure you would have got a lot of stuff on emotional intelligence. So it may so happen that I may say things that may be repetitive, but the good thing is the more we listen to the same thing, the better it would be retained in our minds.
Yes.
So with that, make uh, I would make an attempt to say that, well, let us go through, and in case you find it repetitive or boring, okay, please stay with me. I will try to make it a little interesting, and we'll try to do certain exercises in the class if it is possible. Right. So the other thing that I would want to say before we get started, I see some messages that my voice is not clear. Am I audible to?
Yes.
It is. Is it okay, Dr. Hina?
Yes.
Okay.
It
So I. Okay.
Sir, little bit low. If possible, you can raise your volume little bit. Otherwise, it's fine. You are perfectly audible, but we are getting your voice little bit low, sir.
Okay. Give me a minute. I will try to maybe just switch off the fan in my room. Right. So I have tried to reduce the noise, as we say for our mindfulness stuff also. We say reduce the noise in our minds, and that is
Yeah.
what I have tried to do. I have tried to. Okay, so the other thing is, my request would be, if it is possible, do make it interactive, okay, and ask questions. Stop me wherever you feel uh, things are not clear, because it may so happen that I may be trying to say, I may find it is easy, but you may find it a little out of place. So please stop me wherever you think I need to explain more. So, okay, so with that, let us get going straight away. We have time till 4:30. So I will start by putting up my presentation. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, good. Right, so the topic that we are going to talk about is called as emotional intelligence. And as I've mentioned, I'm sure you all have had a lot of inputs on emotional intelligence. And you see, in any communication that we do today, uh, be it on WhatsApp, be it on Telegram, be it on any other thing, we use what we call as emoticons, right? So these
Yes.
are these are the
Emotions.
these are the emoticons that we are just few of them. Can anybody tell me why did we need to develop these emoticons? Why is it important even to, because I could say, hi, I am Vishal Gupta, and how are you doing? But why do I need to put a smiley, put a smiling face, or put a sad face, or put a face with heart there? What was the need to bring about that? And see, this is something that we do so often. Hardly there is any communication that we do which does not have emoticon. So, why did we do it, and what was the need to actually think about that? Is to convey. I'm not sure if anybody is raising hand, because I cannot see it right now. Because
Sir, I would like to answer.
yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Sir, words, with emotion matters a lot than blank words, because sometimes the words are not important, but the emotion is more important. So that is why, and in the written communication, we can't show the facial expression. So that is why to gesture, to replace it, we need to have that.
Okay, so we need to, you cannot write emotion, and so you need to show it. And the emoticons help us communicate feelings. Okay, Anjali, that is one reason, one
Yeah.
good reason.
Um, uh, uh, Picture memory, picture input is more appreciable to our brain,
Okay, so picture input is,
and it is easy to write instead of writing the characters. Putting the image is easy for me, and it is more expressive also.
it is more,
Because only I think our brain appreciates picture meme, stores the everything in a picture form.
yeah. Okay, now you see, both of you are very correct in actually telling us the importance of emotions. More than words, we communicate through our facial expressions. We see emotions in our body, in our on our faces, on on the kind of expressions we display. So emotions are actually a very, very fundamental part of our being. You see, a child, when he or she is born, the child does not know communication, does not know Hindi, does not know English, does not know Gujarati, does not know other languages, but the child can look at the face and identify what is a smile, what is a happy face, what is a. So by our biology, we are all actually developed or evolved to understand and communicate emotions, and the ability to communicate emotions, the ability to understand emotions is an extremely important aspect of human communication. It is an extremely important aspect of human behavior. So what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is nothing but intelligence about emotions, something that we are innately born with, something that we are so that we have experienced right from our childhood. Okay, something that was given to us by evolution. It is not something that is trained. Remember, English is trained. Remember, Hindi is trained. We learn Hindi, we learn English, we learn Gujarati, we learn the grammar, we learn the syntax, but we do not learn emotions. Emotions is something that is innately a human quality, something that we all understand. And there is a kind of a reason why emotions is something that is innately important, and I will come to that in a while. So emotional intelligence, well, emotional intelligence is being intelligent about our uh, our emotions. Okay, and how does it happen? We'll see it over time. So what is emotion? Emotion. Okay, so I would like to understand emotion as E in motion. So emotion is nothing but energy that we experience within us. Something that we so when I am happy, there is a kind of energy that is there in me. There, when I am sad, there is a kind of energy. When I am jealous, there is a kind of energy. So emotion is nothing but energy in motion, and that is something that we need to understand. Well, we use these words emotions and feelings interchangeably, but whenever there is a kind of energy in our body, we give it a label. Whenever we experience certain kind of energy, we call it, well, we either call it as happiness, we call it as sadness, and so on. So there is a kind of label that is attached to emotions. It is, and as I was saying, it is an evaluation of the subconscious response to emotion. So when we experience that energy, when we experience the energy within us, there is a kind of an evaluation of that energy, and we give it a label which is called as happiness, sadness, and so on. Okay, and the most important aspect is, and I'll come to that in a while, is what label do we give? Okay, so if I experience a certain energy within me, what is the label that I would give it is dependent on the kind of experiences, the kind of beliefs, the kind of memories that we have. I will explain this in a while when we talk more about mindfulness and so on. So just try to understand that evaluation of these responses, evaluations of these energies within us is all dependent on the kind of, or how do we react to these energies, is all dependent on our mental associations, experiences, beliefs, and memories. Obviously, they are private experiences. Each one of us, we have private experience. So if I look at a particular event, if I am looking at a particular event in front of me, my interpretation of that event, my experience is going to be different uh, from somebody else's experience. So we all make these evaluations within us. Okay, beliefs divide us, emotions unite us. So what does this really mean? That, well, we may have our own beliefs. We come from different religions, we come from different cultures, we come from different creeds, castes, they all have different beliefs. So that is a kind of a divide that happens between humans. But emotions, you see, what are emotions? Emotions are these natural feelings that occur amongst all of us, and they unite us. So how happiness is felt in India, or how happiness is expressed by an Indian, is similar to how happiness is expressed by a UK citizen or a US citizen or different religions and so on. So we actually say, and that is what I was saying, that the biology, the evolution has given us that kind of a understanding of our emotions, of our energies. Now, what are the four basic uh, emotions that we experience and that I will like to spend time in this session is happiness, so glad, sadness, okay, disappointment, frustration, madness, which is, well, uh, madness can, so basically uh, anger, disgust, okay, those are even jealousy, right? These are all emotions that can be categorized in this in this, under this. And the last is fear, scare, right? So we experience, these are four basic emotions that come to us. So I have happiness, sadness, anger, and fear. So if you look at a child, if you look at a young boy or a girl, even they will know these kinds of emotions. Okay, so I see a message which says show the previous slide. So this is the previous slide that, okay. Now, the last thing that I want to talk here on basic emotions is, please understand shame. Okay, something that the other very basic emotion that we talk about, shame. Okay, something that we experience a lot. Shame is not a primary feeling. Okay, these are this shame. A young child or a boy does not know what shame is. This is learned. So, shame is an emotion that our society teaches us. Shame is a is a kind of a feeling that we learn as we grow. It is not something that we were born with. A young boy or a child or a girl does not know shame. They will be very happy wearing any kind of clothes. They may be very happy even just playing the way they play without bothering about what others will think about them. Okay, what is shame and so on. But adults, we as elders, we experience a lot of these ideas. We experience a lot of what we do is driven by the idea of shame. Okay, so that is the kind of, so I want you to understand that there are some things that we are innately born with or some things that are common to us, but the level of shame, the level of, there are some emotions, for example, shame, that we pick up on the way. And that is what is being, what is it? That is what we call as emotional intelligence. We have to become more intelligent about these emotions. Well, now there are some other complex feelings also. So we, while we say there is, there are these four basic emotions, but they can all mix together, okay, to give us a kind of other feeling. So if you look at hurt, you are sad as well as angry. So when we look at hurt as a feeling, when a person is hurt, there is a kind of a sadness, there is a kind of an anger. If I look at, uh, I am feeling needy, well, there is sadness and there is a fear, because so I'm not angry, but there is a kind of a desperation that has come in. So there is, I feel sad as well as I fear. Nostalgia, well, when you feel, we use this word very commonly, I feel nostalgic about a particular thing. There is a sadness of loss, but there is joy that you actually belong to that particular thing. Fear and joy, when you have excitement or fun, that means, so for example, when you go for an adventure sport, you go to an adventure park, okay, joy rides. So there is joy, but there is a little bit of fear. So that sort of leads us to fear as well as anger. There is an element of both, and that is what we call as rage. You become so angry, and there is, so these basic emotions can mix and lead to different kinds of other feelings that we also experience. Okay, now let us come to the first idea that we want to talk about, or that I will like to mention when we speak about emotional intelligence, and that idea is called as automatic cycle of behavior. Now, as individuals, it is very important to understand that when we behave or when we are interacting with people, there is a kind of an automaticity in our behavior. Now, what is automaticity? And let me explain that to you. What is automaticity? Automaticity means uh, that there is a kind of a feedback loop in our behavior. There is a kind of a cycle. That is why it is called a cycle. So what happens is there is an event. The event leads to certain emotions. Emotions lead to, along with emotions, there is a thought, and then there is an action, and the action leads to a new event. Now, what does that mean? Let me just take you to an example. Let's say you reach home, okay, in the evening, and you are tired, okay, you have had a long day, and suddenly your spouse, so husband or wife comes to you and says, well, uh, uh, we need to go to the market because we have to buy maybe vegetables or fruit or whatever. Okay, so there is a kind of an external event that has happened. So what is the external event? The external event is you reach home. Okay, you are sitting in your drawing room, and then there is somebody who asks you to do more work. It is your spouse, your husband or a wife. Now you have no control over this event. It is something that is outside you. What happens is the moment your spouse asks you to do this, there is a kind of a thought. There is, so immediately your body becomes uh, tense. There is a feeling of maybe anger. There is an emotion of frustration. You are already so tired, okay, and somebody is asking you to do more work, and well, there is a kind of an emotion, and then there is a thought, well, it would be nice if my spouse helped. So there is a kind of an emotion. So brain automatically gives you or triggers a kind of a feeling. Remember, when we talk about emotions, the seat of emotions, I'm sure you would have covered this in earlier discussions. Emotions are controlled by an automatic part of our brain. So emotions are controlled by a part in our brain which is called as amygdala. This is a part of our brain which is not in our control. So immediately whenever there is an event, there is an emotion. There is something that triggers, and this had evolutionary purposes. For a long time in human history, we were always living at the mercy of nature or animals. So we were under constant threat of nature or animals. So there is a purpose for not having control on our emotions, because immediately if there was an external threat, either an attack by animals or there was an attack by another human being or even there was a natural calamity, the body would automatically respond by triggering certain emotions, and you would have heard fight or flight. So we were extremely good, or we are extremely good at fighting or running away. And that comes to us naturally. You would have observed within yourself, if you are in a fight, if you are uh, in a sort of a kind of a difficult conversation, or you are arguing with somebody, you would see that your body automatically starts to become warm. Okay, your body is, the temperature of your body rises. You would see that your ears becoming red, your face going red, you start feeling really hot. And so the body, even without your consciously thinking about it, the body is preparing to fight or flight or run away. So emotions get triggered within our body almost immediately. So when we are, even now, all of you are listening to this lecture. Well, I'm sure even without your conscious effort, you are experiencing some emotion. And along with that emotion, there are also associated thoughts. Now, with these thoughts, so when I say that, well, my spouse does not help me, or people around me do not help me, it leads us to take certain actions. So you feel overwhelmed and angry because you already have had too much work to do. Now somebody is asking you to do more work. So the body responds with tummy butterflies and tight shoulders. You are not happy, you are angry, you are feeling something. Spouse is not helping me with work. And what is it that you do? Immediately, you shout and you take an action. You take an action and you shout at your spouse, or you do some work in anger. So while you may not shout at the spouse, you may still become angry and you start behaving in a different manner as you work, as compared to what you were. And then what happens is, now your action has created a new event. Okay, so the next round, so there is a new event. You become angry, you shout at your wife or husband. What will happen? The husband or wife will shout back at you. So there is an event triggered thoughts and emotions, which triggered an action, and your action triggers a new event. It triggers a new event. And then that event will create new emotions, new thoughts, new actions, and this cycle will continue going. Okay, this is called as the automatic cycle of behavior. Now, it is very important for us to understand that this is how we behave. This is one of the fundamental ways of behaving when we experience external situations. People, I don't know how many of you belong to northern India, people from Haryana, Delhi, Punjab, or any other places also. I'm sure we have all heard about road rage. Okay, people get out of their cars or vehicles and start shouting at each other, abusing each other, hitting each other, and so on. What happens? There is an event, somebody, there was an accident, somebody brushed, okay, there were the two cars collided, or maybe a bike and a car collided, or two bikes collided, whatever. There was an event. That event is not in your control. Okay, remember, in this automatic cycle of behavior, the events are not in our control. The event, what will trigger the emotion and the thought, is beyond you. It is an external thing. Next, what happens is that event will trigger an emotion and a thought. So there is an accident, you get out of your vehicle. What is the thought? You are feeling angry because the body is preparing fight or flight, either fight or run away. What is the thought? Well, you say, well, this man or woman is useless, they don't know how to drive, and they intentionally did this, and whatever. You get out of your car, you start shouting. There is an action that you take. You start shouting, the other person also starts shouting, and there is new emotions and new thoughts. You start, and what happens? There are times, it happens in our country, there are times when people end up killing each other in that fit, in that rage, in that automaticity that is happening. The kind of emotions and thoughts that they are going through, this spiral, this cycle keeps on growing, and you may eventually end up taking a drastic action as far as killing somebody. Now, this is an automatic cycle of behavior. So that is the first thing that I want you to keep in mind. Now, when we have this automatic cycle of behavior, it is very important for us to understand that we have to break this cycle. In order to be emotionally intelligent, we have to break this cycle. And where do we break it? We break it between events and emotions. We have to break it between events and emotions. So this part, the first part, has to be broken. So that is the first place where you have to stop this automatic cycle of behavior. The second place where you have to stop this cycle is between emotions or thoughts to actions. The kind of actions that you are taking, this is the second path you have to break. Unfortunately, you cannot break this third path, which is actions to events. Okay. The moment you have taken an action, the moment you have shouted at your spouse, or you have shouted at the other person on the road, or you have shouted at your children, or you have shouted at your subordinate, what has happened? You have created, it is like an arrow that you have shot. Okay, so you have taken an action. That action will lead to certain events. That event, where that action will lead you to, okay, whether it will be uh, a good reaction or a bad reaction by the other person, that is beyond your control. If you are in Gujarat, people may be so kind to say Jai Shri Krishna and move on. But if you are in Haryana or Punjab or Delhi, you don't know. There may be people who may say, okay, if you shout, we can also shout. If you can hit, we can also hit. And something can really happen. So, this path, the third path from actions to events, is something that is beyond our control, and that is something that we cannot work on. Okay, so you have to think about the first path between event to emotions and emotions to actions. Okay, now let us come to the part of how do we check, how do we control the thoughts, or the first path, how do we check this first path between events to emotions, what is it that we can do? Now the first thing that I want you to think about, or understand, is what we call as, I would like to call as R2 cells. And this is something that this is not new. These are things that have been talked about in religion, in philosophy, in spirituality for a long time. I would like you to understand that there are two cells in us, and we call it as the ego and the natural self. What is the ego self? The ego is that self within us that is created because of our socialization. It is that self in us which is created by our past experiences. It is that self in us that is judgmental, that likes to give orders. It is that self in us that is very, very uh, uh, critical at times. So you see, there are a lot of voices in our head. So when I say, well, I have too much work to do, it would be nice, and my the other person does not understand me. There is my spouse or my subordinate, they do not help me, they do not support me. Oftentimes these are thoughts, judgmental thoughts, that come to us because of our past socialization, because of our past experiences. On the other hand, we have the natural self. What is the natural self? It is that compassionate, understanding self in us, which likes to love, which likes to grow, which likes to develop. It is that self in us which is compassionate, which is really understanding others. Now, there is a constant struggle between the ego and the natural self within us. The kind of thoughts and emotions, okay, you see, the emotions will come to you. The kind of thoughts that you attach to these emotions will take you to one action. So if you think about the emotions from an ego self perspective, the actions that you will take will be of one kind. If you look at natural self, or you try to be compassionate, understanding, you make a conscious effort to understand people, that will take you to another level. Okay, so let me just show you a small video, and then we will come to that. Okay, let us look at this video together.
There is a story, usually attributed to the Native American tradition, which illuminates different ways of paying attention. An elder, talking to a child, says, "I have two wolves fighting in my heart. One wolf is fearful, vengeful, envious, resentful, and deceitful. The other wolf is compassionate, loving, generous, truthful, and peaceful." The child asks, "Which wolf will win the fight?" The elder responds, "The one I feed." That doesn't mean we try to deny or hurt or kill the angry wolf. If we did that, we'd end up in a long battle, all the while somehow making that wolf more powerful through our hostility and fear. Hating that wolf sucks the strength right out of us. Instead, we calmly pay attention to the angry wolf and let go of believing they have the answers. If we can do that, they end up lying down next to us, no longer an enemy. We help strengthen the kind and loving wolf, giving it nourishment and support so that we can follow it. That peaceful wolf can become our steady companion and show us the way through all kinds of different life experiences. Restful or chaotic, enjoyable or disappointing experiences may come and go, but we can have a guide with us through it all. This is what mindfulness can help you do. Mindfulness allows us to see our thoughts and feelings as they are beginning. It's very powerful to know what we're feeling as we're feeling it, know what we're thinking as we're thinking it. With mindfulness, we can choose what will strengthen and bring into action, and we can choose what we will gently let go of. We don't have to be at the mercy of old habits or old ways of thinking or old ways of being. We are empowered. It just takes practice.
Okay, so if you look at this video, what the video is trying to tell us is that there are these two selves within us. Okay, there is an angry wolf, as the video talked about, and there is a loving wolf. So what happens is, when you look at these thoughts that come to us, okay, when you have to when you look at how we become emotionally intelligent, you've got to understand that the way we think, the way we are rationalizing these events, they can come because of that angry, hateful self within us, or the compassionate self within us, which we call as the ego and the natural self. Yes, I see a hand raised. Please go ahead, unmute yourself and ask the question. Is there anybody who wants to?
I
Okay.
think by mistake someone has raised the hand.
Okay, no problem. Let us go ahead. Okay. Now, what is important is, when you are working, and remember this automatic cycle of behavior, the events will continuously happening. Okay, we come to our office, there is something that happens on the road, in our office, with our subordinate, with our bosses. There are many things that can happen to us. Okay, now what is it that we have to understand is, how do we manage the kind of thoughts that come to us. Now, what is important is, when we look at the whole idea of emotional intelligence, it really begins. I truly believe, or I would like to recommend, that you cannot be emotionally intelligent unless you make an effort to check the thoughts that come to you. Okay, so this not thinking at all, I will just come to that in a while. You've got to ask yourself, who is speaking, who is giving these thoughts, whom, who is speaking, who is listening. Okay, and that is the kind of, a lot of times what happens is we may pass many judgments, not just about others, we may pass many judgments about ourselves also. I am sure many of us would have made this comment one point or the other at one time or the other. I am not good enough. I am not a good, I'm not good for this job. I'm not fit for this work. You see, we make judgments not just about others, we make judgments about ourselves also. And there is, I can attribute it again to this voice in us, which is based on past socializations. Now, I would like to just uh, remind you of the earlier slide where I mentioned that shame is an emotion that a child does not know. Shame is something that the society teaches us. Today, when we live our lives, there are so many thoughts that go on within us which talk about, if I do this, what will others think of me? If I do that, what will others think of me? I should not be doing it, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, etc., etc. So there is a kind of a problem within us, because you see, those who said these voices, how do we have these voices? These voices were the, or are the voices of our elders, maybe our parents, maybe our grandparents, maybe our uncles and aunts, maybe anybody else, maybe brothers and sisters who maybe had told us, we are not good for this, we are not good for that, we should not do this, we should not do that, etc., etc. Society is like this. We have been taught to believe and think in a particular manner. And these voices exist within us in the form of ego self. Today, I don't need my parents around. That voice is already within me. That voice has been ingrained in me. Well, you should not do this, you should not talk to this kind of a person, this person comes from this religion, this person comes from this background, person comes from this caste, so they are supposed to be like that. So these were voices that were told to us while we were growing up, and these voices have remained within us, and they become these thoughts that come to us automatically, which is the ego self. Now, this is what is the characteristic, and this is one of the quotes from I think Bible. The Bible says the devil doesn't come to you with a red face and horns. It comes to you disguised as everything you've ever wanted. So another very, very important emotion that we need to learn to manage is what we call as envy, okay, or jealousy. We are envious of others. We are envious of our colleagues. We are envious of our bosses. We are envious of our subordinates. We are envious of our spouses at times, because we want to be like them. We want to work or to become what they, or achieve what others have achieved. So our ego self basically is everything that has been, that is something that we wanted over time, something that we believe, well, we should have done this, we should have done that, etc. So it is formed from exposure to others. It is great at self attack. I was telling you earlier that you would have heard those critical voices within you. Well, you are not good for it, you are not good for that, etc. It loves judgment. So this is a voice, this is a kind of a self that likes to pass judgments about others, is merciless. It is always critical. It is always something that forces you to be critical of not just about others, a lot of times also about you. So you say, well, this person on the road is a bad guy, this person uh, beside me is a bad guy, my husband or wife is a bad person. So we are critical. I am a bad person, I'm not good for this, and I'm not good for that. So there are so many voices that go on within us. Our natural self, on the other hand, it is the potentials that we were born with. It is the true us. It is that God, it is that power that shines within all of us. That is the compassionate self. That is the second opportunity that we have to give ourselves to when we are looking at an event, when we are looking at a particular thing, we've got to understand that there is this kind of uh, we can also look at that situation in a positive manner. We can also look at that event through compassion, through understanding, through caring, through empathy, rather than looking at, well, all these negative aspects and so on. So we need to, so this is the self that likes to learn, love, and grow. I think these are three very, very important qualities. Learn, this is a self that likes to learn. It is a self that likes to grow and develop. And this is a self within us that likes to love. Love others, be compassionate, be empathetic, and is best seen in a child. I would like to say and recommend each one of you, if you really want to look at what is an ego self, look at a cribbing, a complaining adult. And if you want to understand what is a child or what is a natural self, please look at it. Look at small children. They are the best examples of what natural selves are. Over time, the society works on these children and makes them into cribbing, complaining, unhappy adults. What is the performance? And I like to call this as the idea of the inner game. The inner game is performance is equal to potential minus interference. So this potential is the natural potential that we are blessed, and the interferences of the ego, those critical voices that are within us. How well you will eventually perform, how well you will perform in terms of being emotionally intelligent, how well you will perform in terms of your job, will depend on how much will you work with the natural self and how much will you work with the ego self. That is going to be the potential minus the interference. And this is the inner game. This is a game that continues to exist, and we have to play it all the time. While there is a game that is played outside, which with external events and external causes, eventually whether you will be able to succeed at being emotionally intelligent will depend on how well you can play this game between the natural and the ego self. Now let me come to the whole idea, and I talked about how do we get to this natural. So what we've done so far, we have understood the cycle of automaticity, and we have understood the idea of being the idea of ego and the natural self. Now let us do a small exercise. Everybody, I want you to please pick up a paper, okay, and a pen. Please, if you can, if you have the bandwidth and you can turn on the videos, you can turn on your video. Pick up a paper and pen and draw these four lines. Draw four lines like this. Let us do a small exercise to understand how we work, okay, and understand this idea of mindfulness now, okay. Draw 4 lines on the paper, just like I have shown. If you already have a ruled paper, very good. No need to draw. Okay, now don't do anything. Don't do anything as of now. I will tell you what has to be done. Just watch what I am doing here. Okay. So on the first two lines here, okay, you have to write in, don't write it right now, just look at me. Okay, write this on the first line in English, and then
Sir, please
on,
increase the volume. I
on
can
this
hardly hear.
on the second line, okay,
Sir,
you have
please.
to write numbers.
Sir,
Sir, you are
please.
muted.
Okay. Please
So
increase
what
the.
to write in first line?
Sir,
Sir,
you
you are muted.
muted.
Mute yourself.
Multitasking is a crime.
Hello, am I audible
Yes, sir.
now?
Now you're audible.
Okay, sorry. Don't write it right now. Okay, just please try to do it. Okay, I'm repeating it again. Draw these 4 lines. On the first line, when I will tell you to write, then only write. Don't write it right now. You have to write multitasking is a crime. And second, you have to write numbers up to 20. Okay, you have to write these numbers. So on the first line, you will write this sentence. On the second, you will write these numbers, and pick up a stopwatch on your mobile or on the wristwatch, and you have to time yourself. You will have to see how much time will you take to do these two sentences. Okay, multitasking, English and numbers. Is that okay, everybody? Is the
Yes.
exercise clear?
Okay, sir.
Okay, your time starts. Okay, go ahead and time yourself. Go ahead and time yourself. How much time did you take to write these two sentences?
How much time? I can you repeat, sir?
How much time did you take to write these two things? First the English sentence, and then the second thing, which is these numbers.
Completed, sir.
Completed?
Yes.
Okay,
Completed, sir.
very good.
17 seconds.
Very good. So I can see that
Yes.
there are people who are,
16 seconds.
yes.
13
Okay.
seconds.
Okay. Now you have timed yourself. Now we'll do the same exercise in a different manner. Now what we will do is you have to now write M, and then on the line below, on the next two lines, you have to write 1, then go to the first line, and then you have to write U. Then on the second line, you will have to write you will have to write 2 here. Okay, then go to the top line again, and you will have to write L. Okay, then you will have to write number 3, then write E, and then write, you can write all of this in small alphabets, does not matter. Is that okay? Understood? First write M, then 1, U, and then 2, L, then 3, T, then 4, I, and 5, and go up till crime. Complete the sentence and time yourself. Time yourself again. How much time did you take to do this thing?
Completed, sir.
Completed, sir.
Complete.
1 minute.
Complete, sir.
1 minute.
30 seconds. 30 seconds.
54 seconds and one error.
Very good. Very good.
37 seconds.
Okay. Very good. So everybody has done it. I am seeing a lot of messages. Thank you for doing it. Now tell me, how did you experience the two tasks? One, when I asked you to write one sentence and then the numbers, and the other one when I asked you to do M and then 1, U and then 2, L and then 3, and so on. You can
First one was
understand.
very easy, sir. Second one, it took time.
That why multitasking is a crime.
Okay, that is the reason why I wrote multitasking is a crime. Now you see what happens, and this is important for us to understand. I was telling you that performance is potential minus interference. And how do we understand the natural and the ego self, and how do I have to take care of these two things? I want to tell you that as a human, as a human, it is just not possible to do multitasking. We are absolutely pathetic at doing two things at the same time. Multitasking is a crime, as well as multitasking is impossible. It is just not possible to be or to do multitasking. Multitasking is one of the biggest myths of management. Okay, it is not possible. What happens when you do multitasking? I was looking at your responses, I was looking at the chat. The person who had done the same exercise in 17 seconds, the first exercise, is taking close to 50 to 60 seconds to do the second exercise. What does this teach us? This teaches us the first aspect of multitasking. The first aspect of multitasking is whenever you do multitasking, the time taken to do the task goes up. Please write it down somewhere. We take double or triple the amount of time to do things when we are trying to do multitasking. The second, I don't know how many of you experienced it, the chances of making errors goes up. So somebody said that she made one error. In the first task, it was very easy. Multitasking is a crime, and then numbers 1 to 20. What's the big deal? You would be wondering, why is the professor asking me to do these nonsensical things? Okay. But you see, very simple task, but you try to multitask, you try to switch between English and mathematics, the chances of making errors goes up. Okay. The third aspect, very important, the third aspect is the stress goes up. I don't know how many of you felt, was it stressful for you doing this switching between English and mathematics?
It was like a punishment, sir.
It was like a punishment.
So much stress, sir.
It was like a punishment. So the
So much
stress,
stress.
the effort, the stress in doing even simple things go up. Okay. Now, this is where mindfulness really begins. Okay. And why do we say mindfulness is such an important aspect of living our lives? Mindfulness says multitasking is a crime. Okay, you cannot do multitasking. Our brains are incapable of doing two things at the same time. But then you should also say, especially, and I hear whenever I do these sessions, a lot of students, a lot of professionals tell me, but women are very good at multitasking. They can cook so many things in the kitchen and so on. But please understand, there is a difference between multitasking and sequential processing. What is sequential processing? That means if you have 10 minutes and you have to do two tasks, for the first 5 minutes, you do task number one and you do it with full attention. The next 5 minutes, you do task number two and you do it with full attention. What do you see? An onlooker will find that in 10 minutes, two tasks have been done. But you did not notice that when that person was doing task number one, he or she was doing only task number one. When the person was doing task number two, that person was doing only task number two with full attention. Multitasking is actually impossible. We cannot handle two things. I don't know how many of you would have observed. Okay, please observe it after the session ends. Please try to observe this. Try eating food tonight while watching television. Okay, try eating food, or look at your children. Look at your children while they are eating food while watching television. You would have to constantly remind them, eat food, because they are constantly glued looking at the television. So when the mind is focused on one thing, the other thing is out of focus, is not getting focus. Now that is where we need to understand what is mindfulness. Mindfulness says very simply, living in the present moment. Okay, it is extremely important for each one of us to pay full attention to what we are doing. I'm sure a lot of you are watching this lecture online. You may also be checking your mobile phone once in a while. You may be checking your mails while you are having Professor Vishal Gupta doing this session. But just try to observe yourself when you watch the mobile or when you check your mail for some time. What Professor Vishal Gupta has just said is not reaching your ears, because the mind becomes focused on one particular thing, the other particular thing is out of focus. So it is extremely important to understand that we can do only one thing at a time, and the only time that we have in our control is the present. That is why it is called as present. It is a gift to us. The past is past. You cannot change it. The future is unknown. You cannot change it. It is not even known. So how can you change it? Okay. The only thing that we have in our lives is the present. And the moment you live the present with full attention, you also become non-judgmental. So let me show you two quick videos to help you understand what mindfulness
Would you like to
is.
work from anywhere in the world? doing what you love, and not bother answering people's.
Okay,
Welcome to Mindfulness Animated, a fun and helpful explanation. The brain has evolved so greatly that it spends much of its time solving problems that haven't yet occurred in the future, thus leading to anxiety or panic, and mulling over events in the past, leading to depression. Often it does both all the time. The question is, how can we make our brain stop and think about only the present, the state we are in, when we are in the zone or in the moment? Mindfulness is derived from the Eastern meditation, a practice for thousands of years recognized to help humans control and tame our brains. Research has shown that, among other things, meditation can help depression and anxiety, reduce stress, reduce pain, while improving concentration and giving us more energy. Meditation has also been shown to improve relationships, increase creativity, boost immunity, and may even prolong life. The question is, how do you do this? Simple. This three-step approach is all you need. For 15 to 25 minutes every day, number one, sit up.
Okay, let me go to the second one.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of their car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay, how many of you understand what is meditation? Or you do meditation, or you have done meditation? Anybody would like to? Yes, please go ahead. Laisama. Or Anjali, go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Hina.
Should
Yes.
I start?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I'll talk after Madam Doctor.
Please. Yeah, anybody can go. Hina,
Okay,
you can.
thank you, Professor. Yes, I have been practicing meditation with Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. I have taken a little course. As according to me, meditation is a journey of going within. Analyzing ourselves is. It has been spiritually linked to godly feeling also. But what I have been practicing is like going within, and at the evening I don't get time in the mornings. At the evening I do, and I just thought for 15 minutes I give a thought that what I did during the whole day, and what went so good, what went bad, and why it went bad. And then is a self reflection kind of 15-minute meditation, and then the 15 minutes is going inside. That is what
Okay.
I'm doing, and is helping me a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Anjali.
I feel meditation is doing nothing,
Yes.
and
For that,
observe doing nothing.
yes.
Uh, so keeping your brain, making your brain to work without any thoughts,
How do
or if thoughts are coming, let them come, but observe them as a third person. You observe yourself, and uh, just don't think anything, just see what is happening.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, Arun.
Meditation is a self-awareness,
Okay.
knowing that who you are.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So going to ourself.
Okay. Okay. Good. Now you see what happens in uh, uh, meditation, and I'm going to give you a little, maybe a drastic or a revolutionary idea. I would like to actually propose that meditation is nothing but an activity to remind you that the brain cannot do multitasking. Okay. Now, when you sit down to meditate, when you sit down to meditate, what you are actually trying to do, whatever strategy of meditation you adopt, you are watching your breath going in, going out, whatever you do, at the end of the day, you try to focus your brain onto something that your body is doing. Okay, that non-doing, which Anjali said, that I am doing nothing, you are still watching your breath going in and out, or you are chanting some mantra, you are doing something. But essentially, what happens is you have focused your brain onto one activity. And then once you have focused your brain on one activity, the brain has no bandwidth to focus on all those thoughts that were coming into your mind. So the mind will still wander, it will still go behind those thoughts, but then you silently, non-judgmentally, without making any judgment, you bring back your attention to breathing. So essentially, I will like to recommend that we can all do 1 minute meditation, every minute meditation. And what is our every minute meditation? Our every minute meditation is to be mindful, to remember that we have to live in the present and focus on what is happening to us in the here and now. We have to pay attention to the stimulus that is there in front of us in the here and now. We have to watch what is the thought that is coming to us in the here and now. Is that a thought because of the ego self? Is that a thought that I can justify, or that is a thought because of the natural self? So we can all meditate every moment in the day, every minute in the day, by reminding ourselves that the task that is most important for me is to do it in the present, is to live in the present without bothering about what happened in the past or what will happen in the future. Remember, everybody, please remember, future is nothing but pure imagination. It is pure imagination. It is our imagination. I can imagine a great future, I can imagine a bad future. You are sitting in your room, in your office, in your home, and you are imagining the future. Okay? You can, nobody has seen the future, nobody will ever see the future. What is past? Past has already happened, nobody can change it. The only moment that we have is the present. And the problem is, while something is happening to you, while you have that present moment, if your mind is focused on the past or the future, it has no bandwidth left to focus in the present moment. And that's the problem of the brain. And that is how we become, or we get carried away by the emotions that are there within all of us. So what is emotional intelligence? Okay, with all of this, so I want you to remember three things now. The first thing is the automatic cycle of behavior. Please write it down somewhere. The first thing, when we talk about becoming more intelligent about our emotions, we've got to remember that there is the automatic cycle of behavior. The second is this aspect of ego and the natural, the two wolves that live in us, the two selves that live within us. One is the self that is egoistic, that is dependent on our past experiences and socializations. The second is that compassionate self which likes to learn, love, and grow, which is caring, which is empathizing, which is understanding. The third aspect is the idea of multitasking and mindfulness. We cannot multitask. Therefore, we have to be mindful and live in the present moment. That's the third recipe of being emotionally intelligent. What is emotional intelligence now? Emotional intelligence is formally defined as that capacity within us to recognize our feelings and that of others and be able to manage these emotions in order to lead a happy relationship. So you've got to, first of all, understand what is the emotion you are having. Okay, what is that energy that you have? Then you've got to rethink, you've got to understand what is the emotion other person may be going through, and then you've got to rethink about the situation. You've got to break that cycle of automaticity. You've got to rethink about the situation in order to manage the relationship better. What are the core components of emotional intelligence? First is you have to recognize your own emotions. How do you do it? If you are not mindful, if you are not conscious of what is it that is happening to you, what is the experience you are having, what is the thought you are having, you cannot diagnose and recognize your own emotions. So you are likely to blow up and lose control if you don't recognize your own emotions. So you've got to understand, just like we saw in this mindful video that we saw just now, that I am feeling angry. You have to understand, I am feeling angry. Once you understand you are feeling angry, you've got to ask, why am I becoming angry? What is the reason? What is the thought that is making me angry? The second is not just about you. You've got to understand similarly what you've got to guess. You've got to empathize with the feeling of others. So you've got to make an effort to understand what is the kind of feeling that the other person may also be going through. Just like you are going through certain feelings, the other person may also be experiencing certain feelings, and then use this knowledge of your own emotions and the thoughts that you have and what the other person can be going through to respond appropriately and respond not through ego self, but to respond via the natural self. Okay, so that is something that you have to keep in mind. So when you look at, there is when you look at emotional intelligence or the competence, there are two things. One, you've got to think about what is it that is going on in your head, what is the emotion and what is the thought, and you've also got to empathize and understand what is going on in the other. So let us look at a nice video of Dhoni.
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire,
I feel equally frustrated. I also feel angry at times. I feel disappointed. But what is important is none of these are constructive. You know, what needs to be done right now is more important than any of these emotions. So when I get into the thinking of what needs to be, Nabi mujhe kya karna hai, what is the next thing that I can plan, who is the individual I can use. And once I get into it, you know, I'm controlling my emotions in a much better way. So I would say I'm like everyone else. It's just that I control my emotions slightly better than some of the other individuals, you know, because I feel, you know, human beings have a lot of emotions, and especially us Indians, you know, we thrive on emotions. So, you know, it will be wrong to say that, you know, these are something that doesn't come to my mind. Yes, you know, I also face each and everything, but I always felt that my emotions should be under my control. And if I'm able to do that, then my thinking will be more constructive, and also it will help me think more about the process than the result, because the result can put undue pressure on the individual or as a team in the group.
Okay, so if you look at what he is saying, what Dhoni is trying to tell us is, well, we will get emotions, but we've got to think about whether it is in our hands, whether we become automatic and respond in those emotions, or we rethink about those emotions and do it in a particular manner. Let us look at the importance of.
Can I say something? I'm the type of person, you ask me a question and I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you that I don't know. But I bet you what? I know how to find the answer, and I will find the answer. Is that fair enough? I can do it. No, you can't. No one can. It's bullshit. No, I'm pretty sure I can do it. No, you can't. Let me see it. Give it here. Oh, this is going to drive around all day. I'm sick.
So this is the point that I want to emphasize, the social awareness, the empathizing part.
अच्छी टाइम झाड़ू मारो तो भी कम है। हम इंसान है कि मशीन? कितना टाइम साफ करेगा? मैं मरता रहूंगा दिन भर, झाड़ू मारता रहूंगा। सब यहीं से जाएंगे, दूसरी जगह से नहीं जा सकते। अरे उधर मत चलो, अभी साफ किया है। क्या सॉरी? तुम तो सॉरी बोल के निकल जाएगा। सबका क्रिकेट अपन को सुनना पड़ेगा। सुनेगा? 20 साल से तो सुनता है। काका, नाम क्या है? क्यों? कंप्लेन करने का है? मकसूद नाम है मेरा। जाओ करो।
कंप्लेन नहीं करने का, थैंक यू बोलने का। सच्ची
पेशेंट लोग जब ठीक होता है तो सब डॉक्टर को थैंक यू बोलता है, तुम साला सबका कचर पट्टी उठाता है, तुमको कोई थैंक यू नहीं बोलता। मेरे को तुमको थैंक यू बोलने का मकसद है। थैंक यू मकसद है। सॉरी।
कोई बात नहीं, जा हो जाएगा सब।
Okay, so the two things, understanding our own selves and the empathy. Now, remember that there is always this acquired self, the ego self, this insensitive, judgmental, trying to weigh or label people as bad individuals, or there is a bad motive, will keep talking to the natural self all the time. So remember, you can have thoughts that are negative, or you can also look at the same situation through the positive natural self. What we say to ourselves is programmed. Okay, this is very, very important. That is why I have used this word, is programmed. We are all programmed to think and believe in a particular manner. It is very important to, therefore, just like Dhoni said, it is very important for us to stop, ponder, and think about the situation, the kind of thoughts that we are getting. Is this the right way to think? Exposure to others, many thoughts and beliefs are passed down through our genetic makeup, your ancestry, authority figures, and even the media. Okay, so you've got to stop, pause, rethink. Self can take many forms. Let us look at this video to understand this idea. Negative. So this is about negative thoughts, and how does negative.
My friend told me he often went to the same little corner grocery store in his neighborhood. One day, he realized that though it was usually the same woman working there each time, he hardly ever noticed much about her. He felt shocked at himself and thought, for all I really pay attention to her, she might as well be a cash register with arms. So he went into the store, determined to actually pay full attention to her. The first thing he noticed was that she was singing along to something playing on the radio, and that she had a really beautiful voice. When he said that to her, she responded with a wide, radiant smile. As soon as he told me that story, I realized that I too often went into the same store and also had hardly noticed that woman, except for maybe a vague sense that perhaps she was a little grim. I made a plan. I'm going to go into the store, say to her, I heard you have a really beautiful voice, and watch her get really happy and give me a beautiful smile. But when I went into the store, actually paying full attention to her, the first thing I noticed was that she was already smiling broadly. Wait, what happened to a little bit grim? I realized again how much of a person we miss when we don't pay attention. People are people, not pieces of furniture. We each have a life, a story, changing moods, joys, sorrows. And if we pay attention to one another, we recognize that, and our lives are enriched by a continuing sense of discovery. That's the opening to true compassion. Sometimes we think of compassion as a gift, which we've either gotten or we haven't. If we haven't, we're out of luck. But we think of compassion as some kind of emotional reaction that spontaneously erupts out of us. I think of compassion as a natural result that comes from actually paying attention. That means we can continue to cultivate it.
Okay, so unless we pay attention, unless we be mindful, okay, or we live in the present, there are high chances that we will be swayed by those ego self, those programmed voices, rather than the natural, the compassionate self that it is. And these voices are authoritative. Ego self, you would have authoritative voices, abusive voices a lot of times. What you've got to think of is, can we move towards tender, divine, and childish? And what we think about the situation are a mixture of both truth and fallacy. So you may have a lot of false notion about what people may be thinking or what people may be going through. Remember that feelings and emotions are instinctual. That means you may get them immediately or spontaneously. You may become angry. But then how you behave, the kind of thoughts that you will attach to them, is within your control. Okay? So it is important that you watch the thoughts that are there. They can cause us to act or react for better or for worse before we can even consciously think about them. And that's the automaticity that I was mentioning. Let us look at this.
Training the mind is often quite different to how people imagine it to be. Maybe they have an idea it's about stopping thoughts or eliminating feelings, but the reality is a bit different. An easy way to think of it is to imagine yourself sitting on the side of a busy road, the passing cars representing the thoughts and the feelings. All you have to do is to sit there and watch the cars. Sounds easy, right? But what usually happens is that we feel a bit unsettled by the movement of the traffic. And so we run out into the road and try and stop the cars, or maybe even chase after a few, forgetting that the idea was to just sit here. And of course, all of this running around only adds to the feeling of restlessness in the mind. So training the mind is about changing our relationship with the passing thoughts and feelings, learning how to view them with a little more perspective. And when we do this, we naturally find a place of calm. But we sometimes forget the idea of the exercise and become distracted. Of course we will. But as soon as we remember, here we are, back on the side of the road again, just watching the traffic go by, perfectly at ease in both body and mind.
Okay, so you've got to recognize that there would be a lot of thoughts. One of the best things that I really find when I look at emotional intelligence is to stop yourself from getting carried away by the thoughts that come to you. So you are walking on the road, something happens, and immediately there is a thought that will come to you. Just pause, stop there. Okay, it is not necessary that that thought may be right. Ask yourself, do I have enough reason to believe this? Do I have enough evidence to actually believe or think what I am thinking? Listen closely. That is what I was saying. Listen closely when you are talking to yourself. What are you saying to yourself about the particular event? Try to tell yourself the alternate truth. So if you say that, well, this person is bad, my subordinate is not good enough, okay, my spouse is not helping, please tell yourself the alternate truth. Please try and ask them. Tell yourself, what reason do you have to say that the spouse does not help you? Well, the spouse was also actually working all the day long, okay, and there may be some important work that she is asking you to do. So there is no reason to believe that you are the only one who is doing all the hard work in the house and your spouse is not helping. Write down your thoughts. If not write down, at least repeat the thought to yourself and see if they are rational or if there is an alternate viewpoint. Please observe your thoughts and your feelings, your emotions, and what are the thoughts that are getting associated with them. It is very important to rethink, as I had also mentioned. You've got to rethink. If you are angry at somebody, ask yourself, Okay, what is the reason to believe the what I am believing? Okay, what makes me angry? Why should I be angry in this particular situation? Do I have enough reasons to be angry here? If you are envious of somebody, okay, if you feel jealous, please remind yourself of your capabilities. Please do remind yourself of your strengths. We become envious of people because we think we are not good enough. Okay, that self-critical voice amongst ourselves, within ourselves, it says, well, I am not good enough, look at the other person, look at my colleague, and so on. Please remind yourself of your strengths. Okay, we feel we are not good enough, and therefore we feel jealous of what others have done. And the third is the fear. Okay, the fear, that the third emotion, which is quite critical. A lot of times we fear because we fear the future. We are fearful because of the uncertainty, because of the thing that the future, the unknown. Okay, so ask yourself or tell yourself that future is pure imagination. Future is pure imagination. If you can imagine bad things, you can also imagine good things. Okay, so remember, if you are fearful of something, maybe some work, maybe something else, remind yourself of the natural self, remind yourself of the potential that exists within you, and then go ahead and work on it. Okay, go ahead and build on it. There is nothing to really fear. Be confident and face what is there. Pay attention to the present moment. We've talked about it. Once you pay attention, you give yourself a better chance to associate with the natural self and not get bogged down by the ego self. Accept rather than suppress. Okay, be accepting of things rather than trying. The more you try to suppress, the more dissonance it will create within. Learn and accept from experiences, reflect on what happened, why, and so on. Don't worry about what is whether it is good or bad. It is just a learning experience, and that is what you've got to. Okay, so be non-judgmental, be aware of the present moment. What is there in front of you, that is what you have to focus. Remember, you cannot do multitasking. That is not possible. The only way to quieten the ego self, or to quieten those lots of voices that are within you, is to get engaged with something that is in front of you. Okay, that may be reading a research paper, reading a book, reading a newspaper, watching TV. The moment you focus on something, those critical voices, the all those judgments, they go away. So you focus on a particular thing. Meditation is actually the same thing. The moment you meditate, you focus on the breath. You are trying to bring your attention onto particular, focus your attention onto a particular thing, and that will help you become better and quieten those thoughts that are within you. Okay, stop. So remember this acronym that I have written in the slide. Stop. Okay, remember, every time you make a judgment, you there is an emotion and you get a particular thought. Stop, step back, think, organize, and then proceed. So step back from that thought that is coming to you. Think, rethink. Basically, you've got to rethink, and then organize your thoughts, and then only proceed with the next thing. Listen to the natural self and not to ego self. What are the strategies for developing AI? The first thing is analyze your inner talk. That is something that you have to just keep in mind. Let us look at this video. When we look at when we talk
Despite what you
about
may
when we talk about meditation, this is exactly what we are trying to do. We try to bring our attention to a particular thing, and that makes us focus, that makes us calm. The moment you What is meditate? Meditate is nothing but doing one thing with full attention, and that is what we achieve in
may have heard, meditation does not involve joining a group, paying any fees, wearing any special outfits, sitting in a funny position, or believing in anything in particular. It is simple, secular, scientifically validated exercise for your brain. You don't have to do it yet, but just so you know, here are the 3 steps. 1, sit with your back straight and your eyes closed. 2, notice the feeling of your breath coming in and going out. Pick a spot where it's most prominent. Usually that's your nose or your chest or your belly. And just focus your full attention on the feeling of your breath coming in and going out. Now, as soon as you try to do this, your mind's going to go nuts. You're going to start thinking about, what am I going to have for lunch? Why did I say that dumb thing to my boss? Your brain's going to go nuts, and that's fine. The whole game is to notice when you've gotten lost and to start over. And then to start over again and again and again. Every time you do that, it's like a bicep curl for your brain, and it shows up on the brain scan. Scientists have found this in the lab. It's also, by the way, a radical act. You're breaking a lifetime's habit of walking around in a fog of projection and rumination, and you're actually focusing on what's happening right now. Meditation is unlike anything you do in the rest of your life. Failure is actually success. As I said, the whole game is just trying, failing, starting again, failing, starting again. Here's my advice. You should be meditating every day, 5 to 10 minutes a day. That's it. This doesn't require some giant investment. I don't care how busy you are, you have 5 to 10 minutes to give this a shot. I guarantee you it will make a big difference.
Okay, so the first thing is remember, and meditation is there for advice. Meditation is nothing but helping you remember that we have to live in the present and we have to focus on something. When you go to the office, you are still meditating. I would actually say that if you can do your work with full attention, you are actually meditating. If you are teaching your students with full attention, without with all your heart, with all your energies, that is meditation. When we end a lecture to which we have given our everything, that is meditation for us, and we feel good about it. Recognize feelings, understand the causes of feelings, differentiate between feelings and the need to take action. Remember, I told you that the first place is events to the first path that we have to break the automatic cycle is between events to feelings and thoughts. The second is between feelings and actions. Remember, you may feel something, but you don't need to take an action. If you remember, or if some of you have seen Munna Bhai MBBS, you would remember that the principal, Bomin Irani, whenever he would get angry, he would start laughing. That is just to postpone the action, just to delay the action. Even if you feel or experience certain emotions, it does not mean you need to take action. Manage anger through learned behavior or distraction. So learn how to manage anger, rethink about the situation. If you find somebody around you, your teacher, your professor, your boss, your subordinate, your colleague, anybody whom you think is emotionally intelligent, talk to them, learn from them, understand how they manage their emotions. Learn to postpone an outburst. I told you this. Remember, Anger is one of the most destructive emotions. Postpone it as much as you can. I'm not telling you don't be angry. Please don't mistake me. Okay? I'm not asking you to give up anger, but use it judiciously. Don't be angry all the time, otherwise, people will stop respecting your anger also. Develop listening skills. Okay? You can only listen if you are paying attention, if you are living in the present moment. If you are not listening to what the other person is trying to tell you, then you cannot be a good listener. And this is where I will stop. We are the CEOs of our life. Remember, we will make these choices. I, that is the natural self, am in command. I am the owner of my life and I am the decider. I will not do things just because somebody else is telling me to do it, or I am basing it on my past assumptions, my past experiences. I will do what I believe is the right thing to do. I will try to be compassionate, and that should align with my purpose and what I like to do in my life. Okay, so remember uh, the three things: automaticity, the ego and the natural self, the mindfulness and the multitasking. And the fourth, if I can tell you, the fourth step is rethink, reappraise. Okay, reappraise the emotions. That is very, very important. You've got to rethink about the emotions that you are experiencing, and that will help you hopefully to be more intelligent. I will stop here. Any questions we can take them.
So
Any
sometimes
questions?
emotions are not controlled by a person. So, being me as a third person, if I see that someone is not controlling the emotions, what should be my right action?
So you are you are saying somebody else is not controlling?
Yes, many times it happens that there are emotions coming out, maybe anger or maybe some anger most of the time, and we are victim to that. We are just listening and we are just not able to do anything. Especially the elder ones, for no reason their emotions are explored. In
Yes.
such case, usually what we do is we just say nothing, but
Yeah.
actually it is a trouble to us.
Yes. Yes. It is a trouble. Uh, One of the things that you can do is ask yourself, what is it that I can learn from this situation? Okay, what is it that I can learn? How does this experience help me become better as an individual? How does this help me do better or become better as an individual? That's a very important question. The moment, see, when we become stressed about things, we usually look at stress as something that will take away from us something. Okay, so I feel that the elders are stopping me from doing this and postpone. You've got to ask yourself, how does this experience improve you? And once you do that, you will actually become better. You will find that the experience is not stressful anymore. It is actually a learning experience that will help you grow and do better. Okay? And that will, we cannot do anything about people on whom we have no control. The only thing that we can do is to rethink about ourselves, rethink about that experience. that will help us become a lot more calm, composed, and confident about what we are doing. Yeah, I hope that helps. Yes,
Thank
Amita.
you, sir.
Amita, I see your hand raised. Hina?
Yes, Doctor, Professor, I like your advice of multitasking and that I'm going to frame it, But one thing, that tempt me to ask you is that, can we have a multitasking on a autopilot mode? For example, if I'm working and I used to, or, read audio, or, listen to the audio books. So is it that also advisable or that also I should stop?
No, I will recommend Hina that you try to do it tonight. Okay?
Okay.
Read a book while you are listening to audio. Okay?
No, I'm not, sir. Sir, I'm saying that I listen to the audio book while walking.
Huh. So try doing it, whatever you are doing. Okay?
Okay.
Try doing it and see the experience.
Okay.
You will actually find that your attention is only on the audiobook, not on walking. Because what happens is you can multitask when one of the activity is very routine.
Yes.
Okay, but try walking. Okay, try walking with the audiobook or listening to the audiobook in a crowded. Go to the old city wherever you stay. Go to the old city. There is a lot of crowd, and then you try to walk. So when the activity is routine, it does not need cognitive attention. You can do one
Okay.
thing along with the other. But when it is like walking in a crowd, you will not be able to enjoy the audio
Certainly.
because you will need attention on walking now.
Yes.
So then you will not be able to listen to the audiobook. You will close it, okay, and then you will say, well, let me come to a free street, which is not crowded. Then I will put it on because I need attention on my walking.
Yes. So that is why I said that on a autopilot mode. So that I walk on my garden. There is no one other than me.
Yes,
So
yes. So you don't have to pay to the
yes.
attention to the other activity. So
Yes.
you can do it.
Okay.
So that is possible.
Okay.
But when there are two tasks, both of them need attention.
Cognitive attention. Yes.
Then it is not possible. You will realize that you will have to stop one thing and
Yes.
do the other.
Definitely. Thank you, Professor. It was really enlightening session.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Amita and Vinay.
Hello.
Yeah, Vinay. Go ahead.
Sir, good evening.
Good evening.
Sir, I was asking that sometimes we come across people, or sometimes even I keep on thinking the way I am, it's a cycle of thoughts, and the way I am thinking is same in in many situations. If I want to do something, then I will procrastinate myself, or and the same type of thought that will come like when I'm driving, and जैसे कि सर मैं वहां जाके ब्रेक करूंगा, मेरे को आगे स्पीड ब्रेकर दिख रहा है लेकिन मैं अभी ब्रेक नहीं करूंगा, मैं वहां जाके ही ब्रेक करूंगा, ऐसे लाइक delaying everything. So sir, how to change that programming? Sir, I have asked that question also, that some things are, you said that they are programmed by our genetics or by the way we are brought up, but can we change that?
Yes, absolutely you can change.
Sir, how?
By reminding yourself that you have to change. By reminding yourself the importance of that change. Okay, you have to remind yourself why you have to change. What is the importance of that change? You will not be able to change unless and until you accept the importance of that change. No change either in organization or in the individual can start without understanding the importance of that change. So people will not change unless they understand the importance. So you have to ask and tell yourself, Vinay, why do I want to change? And you have to believe in it. You have
Yes,
to
sir.
believe in it. If I want to if I want to lose weight today, I have to believe that I want to lose or I have to lose weight. Only then I will be able to work towards it. So you have to first believe and accept the importance of the goal that you want to achieve. And then you decide or you understand what is it that you have to do to achieve that particular goal day on day.
So focusing on the goal is the key to
Absolutely.
everything.
So you have to tell कि मुझे ये क्यों करना है, मुझे ये क्यों करना है, मुझे ये change क्यों लाना है, and then only you will be able to and once you remind yourself the importance, एक बार आप खुद अपने को convince करोगे what is the importance, then you will understand that nobody else is needed, only you are needed to change. Nobody else should be needed actually. You are enough to change yourself.
Okay, so thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I will need to stop here because I have another
Thank you
class.
so much, sir. Thank you so much. It was a seriously thought-provoking session, and I must say, to keep this motivation on the notes which you have shared is on my desk. So daily I have a glance of the same and help me to keep the momentum on. That should not be a multitasking. It should be like I should be not with the competition with my gadgets, but yes, it will seriously increase my efficiency and efforts both. Thank you so much, sir, to join us for this FTP, and we're glad for a further association in such kind of occasion from your side, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
And thank you all the participants. This is all for today's session. We end our day 2 here, and uh, for any further clarifications, you can contact me. We'll meet tomorrow at 9:30 for our session 7. Thank you so much. All the participants, see you tomorrow at 9:30 with the same Google link. We have shared one again questionnaire by the expert. We have shared into the WhatsApp group and again mailed you. Kindly go through with it and our expert as suggested or prefer to send you the responses by today evening. So I again expect your support for this and give your responses by today evening. Okay, we already posted the attendance into the chat box. You can see and fill. At 5, I'll be stop taking responses for the session 6. By that time, you can fill the responses. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow.